I think most children at some point make something for the birds. Certainly I at school and when I was at home watching TV shows that did this, I would make bird feeders, typically out of yogurt pots. I don't think I ever made a birdhouse, but that is what Goofy is doing in Goofy the Homemaker. And this is lovely for one main reason, and that it may encourage young children to go and make a birdhouse, or at least to become more interested in the birds that they see in their garden or out of their window. Most children at some point will take an interest in bird watching. It may be fleeting, it may not be. But I really like this episode for that reason, and we do of course get the return of Little Red Bird, who has the cutest little tweeting voice ever. This is actually episode 3 of the second season, and the second episode in a row that is all about Goofy. I didn't mind it with the previous episode, I thought it worked quite well, but Goofy is not my favourite character, to say the least, so 2 episodes in a row, not the best. Nevertheless, the episode itself is pretty cute. And we kind of have a Three Little Pigs theme going on here, with Pete as a kind of big bad wolf character. Goofy first builds a house out of playing cards. Pete decides to use his own wind to knock it down. That's not quite what I meant, but you know what I mean if you've seen the episode. And then Goofy builds the house out of straws, drinking straws of course, and Pete goes out of his way to destroy it. And then he finds a third option, and I won't say what it is, I won't completely spoil the episode if you haven't seen it, but he uses a third option that's supposed to represent the 3 little pigs in the House of Bricks. And actually I like that, because I'm a very big fan of the 3 little pigs as a story. Disney in the 20s and 30s did some fantastic shorts involving the 3 little pigs. They did some propaganda shorts involving the 3 little pigs and the big bad wolf as well, which is pretty bizarre, but it worked very well. And I kind of like that they're incorporating that into this. If a young child watching it is familiar with that story, it can start a dialogue about that story and the similarities, and the child may be able to recognize these things. There are some opportunities for interaction. There are opportunities for learning about measurements. They don't use proper measurements, which on the one hand I like, because it makes it a bit more inclusive and easy to follow. They measure things in goofy foots or goofy feet. 1 goofy foot, 2 goofy feet, 3 goofy feet. And on the one hand I like that because it's a very simple concept, but at the same time part of me feels like they should be using measurements that the child will be learning at school. But on the flip side, not every child learns the same. Some imperial, some metric. So I kind of see why they're using goofy feet. It's easy and a bit more inclusive. But I like that it's teaching about measurements. Goofy is using a blueprint to build the birdhouse. That's something, you know, if children see Goofy following instructions, it may encourage children to learn to use instructions, because there comes a time in every child's life where they don't just get to be creative freely. They have to start to follow instructions and learn how to follow guidance. So it's teaching them how to do that and encouraging them to do so in an orderly fashion. For me though, the main takeaway is encouraging children to think about birds, to think about what birds need, to offer them things that they may be missing. For example, if you live in an area that has birds but not much shelter for them, maybe making them a birdhouse would be a nice thing to do. Most birds tend to find shelter somewhere. I don't believe I ever made a birdhouse. I definitely made an abundance of bird feeders with yogurt pots and those like washing bag nets, putting nuts in them for the birds to peck out. But a birdhouse is also a nice thing to create. I thought it was a really sweet episode. Sure, Goofy is not my favourite, and 2 Goofy episodes in a row is a little bit irritating, but I didn't mind it. It's directed by Phil Walsh with head writer Robin Kingsland, usual fantastic voice cast, with Allwine as Mickey Mouse and Bill Farmer as Goofy. Of course, we had the return of Little Red Bird, who I think is absolutely adorable, and the mother bird is there as well. Goofy the Homemaker, never going to be my favourite, but definitely a very sweet episode.